Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Dilemma from the Game Day NFL. I am your host, as always. It's Tuesday night, so it's going to be me and Nate Hamilton. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing.
I know
Yeah,
that you're gloating. I know that you're gloating. Before we even start, I'm just going to say you called it. You called it. Keke Coutee.
that's right, Keke Coutee. But first, I have something else to brag about. Like, I can get rid of an old friend of mine, somebody that I've been around for 3 years now, has done a lot of work for me. It's time to say goodbye to my Yeti Mike. He's
Oh
not even
no!
plugged in. So
Wow!
you guys,
Wow!
you could see my full face. Here I am.
Yes. Awesome.
So
And you
this is
can pull up
definitely
the
different for
notes
me.
in front of you. I
Yeah,
prefer to have the pop screen and the mic. It looks more
no, it's
professional to
up
me.
and over here, so I don't even have to see it, think about it. I feel a little naked. It is a little weird, but yeah, Keke Coutee, man. I told you. So season high in receptions, targets, and yards. So it was a great game for him, and I think we're going to see a lot of that going forward. So he's definitely, before we get into anything, my top wide receiver pickup for the fantasy playoffs.
We'll get into some of our top waiver wire ads for week 14 again. Once again, it's Tuesday night of an NFL season, and we're just finishing week 13. There's a game tonight, a very controversial game at that. The breaking news: I'm glued to my phone. You're glued
Me
to
too.
your phone. Wide receiver Des Bryant, who, man, this is a guy who, was out of the league for a couple of years, had that torn Achilles, and, he went down, came back, and was battling between the practice squad and, the 52-man roster. He got signed full time.
Yep.
Minutes as he's working out tonight before this game, the Baltimore Ravens game, he gets pulled and he's told that he tested positive for COVID-19. Of course, it was confirmed that just when a player tests positive and, they're saying, why are we playing this game anyways? When
Yeah.
a player tests positive for COVID-19, there are other contacts that are deemed high risk contacts because players wear kind of like an Apple Watch when they're in the facility. So every movement is tracked. Every contact is tracked. If you walk up close to a player equipment guy, they're flagged, and sometimes they say, got to step back. So no close contacts, for Des Bryant. He's just him alone. He will be inactive. A lot of outrage on Twitter as he's taken to the typewriter. He's saying he's quitting for the season. That's it. But luckily for everyone that has like a do or die for tonight's game with anyone on the Baltimore Ravens, their wide receiving core is safe.
I would say so. Let's hope so anyway. I mean, this game's going to start in 2 minutes. And I'm hoping for a big night out of Marquise Brown. But
Yes.
we'll see. This Ravens offense has been very inconsistent this year. So it's probably going to be an ugly game, not going to lie.
Yeah. Speaking of ugly games, my first top waiver wire this week, the poor New York Jets, man. Greg Williams, cover zero. I think everyone and their mom knows what cover zero blitz is. After that weekend, of course, that game-winning play over the top to Henry Ruggs. Congrats if you had Derek Carr in your DFS. Congrats if you had Henry Ruggs in maybe in your flex on your fantasy team. But we got to go back to the New York Jets. I feel like they're just not going to bow out of this season. And my top waiver wire ad is Ty Johnson, because Frank Gore, who's been getting the majority of the snaps and at running back, Ty Johnson is filling in for him because Gore suffered a concussion late in that game.
Yep.
He rushed for 22 times for 100 yards. Added some pass catching skills. He can play well off the screen. So if you're looking for someone dynamic, and sometimes, I know that we counted out just about every wide receiver from the Jets this season, but I think that, going with the ground game in New York for Gang Green, I think that's a safe bet for me.
Yeah. And for Ty Johnson, he does have 10 targets in his last 3 games.
Yeah.
And if Frank Gore, now that we've seen what he can do with carries, 4.7 yards per carry on his 22 carries for 104 yards. I think the best thing is even when Frank Gore comes back, I think it's time for the Jets, the way the season has gone, to turn the page to the young better back. It's actually the first 100+ rush yard performance by the Jets this season. So all it took was one start for he didn't even get the start, actually. He just took over in snaps because Frank Gore went out. But I think Ty Johnson, even when Gore gets back, will be involved in the passing game. So I think I really do like him as an ad for the fantasy playoffs going forward.
What other running backs do you have on your slate? I'm kind of eyeing Cam Akers from the Rams.
It's Adrian Peterson. I know. But 50+ yards the last couple of games.
They utilize him at the goal line a lot.
They have. And that's the one good thing you can count on, at least in a Matthew Stafford-led offense, is that they're going to get to the goal line. They're going to get close to the end zone. And, even as old as Adrian Peterson is, he's not going to be stopped when it comes to the end zone. And he's got a knack for it. 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. You can't really ignore that production.
Yeah. What about in the wide receiving core?
Keke Coutee. I mean,
I knew you were going to say that. All right.
Do I need to talk about anybody?
We get it. What about, just looking at some of the playoff teams, some of these teams that are, really do or die going down the stretch, especially the Colts. Is T.Y. Hilton kind of back in the conversation? I know that we're coming to that point in the season where guys have kind of tailed off. And, now we're talking about, the real down the stretch, playoff runs where, T.Y. Hilton has been on the Colts for many years and he's starting to really build some chemistry with Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that's been amazing is, a few weeks ago, I suggested for everyone to drop T.Y. Hilton because honestly, for this season, he's just been a name. He has not done very well. Yeah. And I think him and Phillip Rivers, finally, it just took to week 11 or 12 for them to, week 12 for them to connect. And, Phillip Rivers is targeting him. T.Y. Hilton has 6 or 12 receptions for 191 yards and 2 touchdowns in the last 2 games. So for me, T.Y. Hilton, he's back in the conversation. And as long as Phillip Rivers continues to play at the level he's playing, which now he's got multiple touchdown passes in the last 3 games, I think that T.Y. Hilton is going to help you out in the fantasy playoffs. And you're going to hear me say fantasy playoffs probably 7 times, 8 times tonight. Maybe more.
All right. Everyone's deep in it. All right. Yeah. Let's talk about the less fortunate, those that we need to drop. Oh, by the way, before we get into this, there was a tight end for the Washington football team, Logan Thomas, that kind of caught my eye before we jump into the fantasy drops last night. 9 targets, 98 yards and a touchdown. I think that this Washington football team is for real. They're on the rise. They snapped the Steelers winning, undefeated streak.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, he seems like a red zone threat right there.
Did anyone take that bet? First of all, that
I did. I didn't actually take it, but I
the Washington football team was going to defeat the.
I said Washington money line. I did.
Wow, that's fantastic. Good for you. Yeah. I hope you put some money on that.
I did not. I don't.
Logan Thomas, I do like him a lot. He's just like the rest of the field in the tight end position. It's such a volatile position to rely on. And as much as I like Logan Thomas's talent, I don't find we're going to see consistency out of him, at least this season. I think for me, he's more of a next year kind of guy. And the one thing that I'm afraid of is if you pick him up and play him for the first round of the playoffs, you might be just chasing points. So that's a dangerous game to play.
All right, getting to those drops. Carson Wentz was dropped today as the starting quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a pretty expensive backup, $40 million, now sitting behind Jalen Hurts. I think I saw a stat that Jalen Hurts is making $885,000 just this year. Carson Wentz makes about $900K per game. So whether or not he's going to be supporting him as much as some other quarterbacks, my thinking is, Ryan Fitzpatrick to Tua, whether or not remains to be seen. But there's a lot of shuffling that's got to happen on, in that wide receiving core. And Travis Fulgham is definitely one of them because Alshon Jeffries is back in the mix.
Yeah.
Who is Jalen Hurts' guy?
It's honestly for it's probably Rager because it's not Fulgham. Fulgham has disappeared in the last 4 weeks ever since Alshon Jeffrey came back, and it hasn't done good for either one of them. Neither one has been a good fantasy option. And honestly, for me, Fulgham, you have to drop him. He's just no longer involved in this offense the way he was. It's amazing because he did such amazing things for this offense for 6-7 weeks continuously. Yeah. And, you get one veteran that comes back. You don't even target that veteran that much, and you just completely eliminate a good option. I mean, I guess everybody has upside now with Hurts in at quarterback. Yeah. We honestly don't know who that's going to be.
Yeah.
So until we see who Hurts is targeting, it's going to be a mad dash at the waiver wire, I think, next week once he gets a full game in.
It would be nice to see whoever is going to spin the wheel on which wide receiver is going to be on the receiving end of a couple of Jalen Hurts touchdowns if that happens this Sunday. Who is your second on your drops? I see Gio Bernard of the Cincinnati Bengals is tops on your list.
Yeah, I'm watching CeeDee Lamb just make a nice catch for half a yard though. So
you know what? He's on my bench right now. I didn't start him. I have no faith in the Cowboys right now.
I don't blame you.
Pick up during the season.
I can't. I know. I'm sorry. There's a live football game on. Yes, Tuesday night. Here it is.
No. Listen. We got people watching, multitasking. If something big happens, then we can inform the audience.
Yeah. Even the host of a live show is multitasking and watching a football game while we're doing this.
Yes.
Gio Bernard for me. He was honestly he's one of my favorite players. It sounds so crazy, but I think when utilized, he's very valuable to a team, especially with Joe Mixon being out as much as he has been, and how much Gio Bernard could be involved in the passing game. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, their quarterback situation's broken, just like a lot of teams right now. And with that, I expected Gio Bernard to get more targets as a safety blanket, just dumping over the middle. But we haven't even seen that either. So yeah. For me, the Cincinnati Bengals as a whole is just a complete void. And I would avoid every asset there with the exception of maybe Tyler Boyd, even the rookie, Higgins.
Yeah. T. Higgins.
Yeah. T. Higgins is he's dropped off completely too.
Well, that was kind of a question. I think we fielded a question. Can I roll with Tyler Boyd for the rest of the year? And you said no. I mean, how can you reasonably say that you're going to ride with anyone, any offensive weapon on that team, right, given the fact that they have no quarterback? And that's just, I mean, again, Joe Burrow was a Band-Aid for a very bad football team. And, there's no other way to cut it. So, be wary of anyone on the Bengals at this point. I agree. Super wary of the Falcons. They burned me twice. I've gone with them for upsets two out of the last 3 weeks. I've really rode them. I've rode those coattails. Yeah. All they seem to do is have really convincing drives at the end. They get inside the 20 and then they just pee down their leg. And then Younghoe Koo just kicks a field goal. So Younghoe Koo, great for the kickers, but they just can't seem to score they can't seem to get in the end zone. And Hayden Hurst is high on your list for tight end drops for the Atlanta Falcons. I would just say drop all of them. I'm mad.
Yeah, do a full tilt and just drop everybody on the Atlanta Falcons. I wouldn't go that far with the Falcons. They still have a talented quarterback targeting them, but Hayden Hurst at the tight end position, again, it's so ugly. The tight end position just awful. And unfortunately, Hayden Hurst is now put together 4-5 consecutive dud performances. So usually when that happens, he's not involved in the offense, and you got to kind of play around with that and let him go and look at somebody, probably stream the position.
I believe I mean, at least for me, I closed the door. I don't know. What, can you give me an update on the game?
It's a commercial.
Oh, it's on a commercial break. And I think we just lost your microphone as well. Nope. Can't hear you. Can't hear Nate. Nope. Can't hear Nate. Might have to unplug and replug. Oh man. On the night that Nate gave the ceremonious goodbye to his Yeti mic. Now we got a silence on one mic. Let's see. Nate, can we hear you now?
I'm plugging back in.
Okay, no, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We're good. Good save. Good save. Excellent save.
That's the crazy thing. When I plug back in, the speakers go to my microphone, which I don't have headphones for, and I couldn't hear you for a second. So we good now?
Okay, yeah, we're good.
All right.
There's a little echo there, so if you do want to put headphones in.
There's an echo now?
Yes, there is an echo now.
Fantastic. Hold on.
Well, before we get into this, and while Nate sets up, we're going to get into some questions. I know we had a bunch of questions that were fed into us during the day, throughout the night. Nate,
is the echo gone? Is the echo gone?
I think the echo is gone.
Fantastic.
I can't hear it anymore.
All right, cool.
All right.
Live shows, everybody.
Oh, man. I know. Exactly. All right. Our first question is from Paul Hoffman. Any week 15 or 16 stash suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, well, to me, he's not a stash. We talked about him already. It's Ty Johnson, running back for the New York Jets. I think that, again, he's going to be involved even if Frank Gore comes back. He's going to be involved in the passing game as well. So I think that he's safe bet for there. There are a lot of top running back options that have been awful for everybody this year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has not been what everyone wants.
Give me a 0.
Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, all these guys that you spent a first or second round pick on have been awful. So I think really guys like Ty Johnson, who are just emerging now, but believe that they will get work in the most important weeks for fantasy purposes anyway. You got to look to those types of running backs, I think, to fill those spots.
Just rub it in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I have to. I'm sorry. He was my running back 15 before the season started, and everybody grilled me for it. So
yeah. All right, this one comes from Mike P. Does Todd Gurley have any worth left for the playoffs, or should I bench him for Jonathan Taylor? You heard what I said about anyone on the Atlanta Falcons. So that being said, what's your advice here?
That's a scary game because Jonathan Taylor, it's not like he's blowing things up either. Just when you think he's getting the workload, the very next game, it's Naheem Hines. It's somebody else, you know. But I think that he probably has a safer floor. Just doesn't give you quite the upside Todd Gurley does, as long as, you know. So that one's tricky. If I would say this, if you have a bunch of playmakers and high risk guys on your team, play the safer option in Jonathan Taylor. But if it's the opposite and you have a bunch of safe guys, I would play Todd Gurley for the upside.
Okay. Moving on. Tim Heaney. I know this guy. I think you know him too. He says, Tua against Kansas City. Cam. Oh, no. Cam at the Rams. That's on Thursday night. Or Trubisky against Houston.
Do you want to throw up just now or what?
I don't know. I don't even know how that's even possible. I hope this is for like your flex quarterback. I hope you're in like one of those leagues.
I guess. All right. Cam. He doesn't throw the ball. I mean,
he had like 80. He had 64 passing yards, and that's like 2 weeks in a row. He said today on sports radio, it's not too sexy to have a quarterback not pass the ball like that.
I would go with Tua simply because you're probably not going to get a lot out of him for the first 3 quarters, but I think we're going to see a lot of garbage time fantasy points from him.
Yeah.
When Kansas City takes an unbelievable lead.
Well, also too, I think Kansas City has a tendency to get behind in the first half. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami just jumped out, put 2 quick touchdowns on him, and then they woke. Then Pat Mahomes is like, "All right,
let me throw 5."
Time to go. That's like Jameis Winston in college. That's why I hated him at Florida State. He literally just wouldn't care for the first half and said, "Oh, okay, now I'm going to start caring."
Either way, it's going to be a good game script for Tua. So Tim, go with Tua.
Okay. All right. Chris Purim says Beasley over Chark. Their matchups. Cole Beasley over DJ Chark.
I love Cole Beasley.
Anyone
Cowboys fan. So
right now.
He obviously went off. He had double-digit receptions and double-digit targets. He had 9 receptions, 131 yards and a touchdown last game. So yeah, Cole Beasley, obviously the hot thing right now. But the truth is, I love Cole Beasley. I think he's more valuable for NFL than he is fantasy because his safe floor, and he does have a safe floor, he'll give you like 52 yards, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, he'll give you 4 receptions for 52 yards. That's a Cole Beasley game. So, but Jacksonville has been so, you just cannot rely on it. You're probably going to get less out of Chark than you would Beasley. So for me, it's probably, I would go Beasley.
Okay. What are your thoughts on Robbie Anderson? Are the Panthers still kind of a threat to put up a lot of points on offense? That's for me. I have Robbie Anderson.
Well, I still think so. I like Robbie Anderson a ton. I just think that the pace that he was on earlier in the season was eventually going to dip off, and unfortunately, it's gotten to a very uncomfortable position. But if they're going to be playing in a matchup where it's we're expecting high scoring, then you have to play Robbie Anderson. He's such a deadly weapon. He all he needs is one play to be fantasy relevant. So I would play him for sure.
Here's a question that I have. Ryan Tannehill, and I mean the Colts are starting to confuse me, much so the same as the Denver Broncos are a team that I just can't figure out if they're good or if they're bad with Drew Lock. The Titans, they laid an egg, obviously, against the Browns, got a bunch of garbage time touchdowns. So they're playing Jacksonville this weekend. Ryan Tannehill or Tom Brady? And Tom Brady is playing the Vikings.
I like Tom Brady after a bye week. So that's for me. He got his old man rest, and he definitely came back from. He had a terrible performance, I believe, in week 11.
Yeah,
came back, had a great performance in week 12, then had a nice bye week. So I think, especially with his weapons, for me, it's Tom Brady. I do like Ryan Tannehill, but he's also dipped down as well in production.
What do you think on the other side of the ball with Kirk Cousins? Does he got any juice this week?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, he's honestly the hottest quarterback right now, in my opinion, for fantasy purposes. I think that he's just playing on a different level, and I really like what he's doing. Obviously, outside of Josh Allen, who's just insane. But Kirk Cousins, I believe, is only 40% rostered.
Yeah.
So he's available in roughly 60% of leagues. So if you are struggling at the quarterback position, go get Kirk Cousins.
Okay. One of my last kind of pop-up questions, going back to the Panthers, Christian McCaffrey seems to be healthy for the first time. I mean, man, he's had a tough season. How much do you trust him against the Denver Broncos? I think they're playing in Carolina, which is good because if they were playing in Denver, it would be a completely different story.
Well, if he's listed as healthy and he's playing, you have to play him. He's just one of those guys you don't bench. And I can't remember the last time he was in a limited type situation. I think when he plays, he plays.
Yeah.
That's just the way I think Christian McCaffrey wants it. And he probably says to the coaching staff, look, if you're going to half utilize me, then don't put me in because he wants to go, go full go. And I admire that. So for me, and plus you drafted Chris McCaffrey with your first overall pick, most likely.
Yeah.
And now it's playoff time. If he comes back, you're putting your first overall pick in.
Yeah. Okay. Running through a couple more questions. These are kind of funny, but let's see if they're serious or not. But
right.
Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers this week? Aaron Rodgers at Detroit. I've already answered your question there.
There it is. Yeah. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has surprisingly put up a couple games where you haven't really been too happy with him.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, has kind of started off that way, and now he's trending up. So, and plus he's got a plus matchup. So I don't know. I go Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Last question here. Do you hold on to Kirk Cousins until Kyler Murray gets right? Kyler Murray in my eye, I feel like I want to keep him for a legacy, for next year. If our leagues does that, I'm not sure if it does.
Yeah. If you're in like a dynasty league or a keeper,
yes.
Yeah, for sure. I would keep Kyler obviously in that situation. But as I just said, Kirk Cousins, he has one of the safest floors right now. And even in a game without his top target, Adam Thielen, he went off and had an amazing game. So, when a player can adapt to not having a top player and they're still producing, that's the type of guy you want in. So, yes, hold on to Kirk Cousins and even play him over Kyler right now. I know that sounds crazy, but just you want consistency in the playoffs and you want a nice safe floor, and that's what you're going to get out of Kirk Cousins.
Nate Hamilton, I need to ask your top 3 advice. I mean, if you could give everyone like your number one, like do's and don'ts for fantasy football playoffs, what would it be? Give me 1, 2, 3 for do's, and then we'll do the don'ts.
All right. So fantasy football playoffs, right? So waiver wire is huge. It's very important. And something that a lot of people don't think about is even if you have enough depth at wide receiver and you know that there's a hot wide receiver like Keke Coutee available, I haven't met my quota of talking about Keke Coutee enough. So, but if somebody like him is available and you look at your schedule and your week 14 team that you're facing, your opponent has, they need some help at the wide receiver position, you probably want to go in, take a bid at the top wide receiver ad, so that way you steal it from your opponent. Mm-hmm. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just playing defense, even if you don't plan on playing that player. Okay. But you kind of keep it, play keep away from your opponents. That's right. So one advice I give.
Is dope. You got to still take the top waiver wires. Okay.
Yes, I agree. Again, if it's not for you, you have to think, all right, I'm keeping this guy away from
someone else.
My opponent.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What else?
So one thing you might want to do too is if, depending on what quarterback you're facing, you might want to throw, if you have their wide receiver, you might want to throw them in to kind of cancel out points from your opponent. And I know it does that for you too, but especially at the quarterback position, if you can cancel any of their points, and typically, quarterbacks get less for yards than wide receivers do. Mm-hmm. So the wide receiver could actually end up with more points, even if the quarterback does well. So that's one of my biggest things that I like to do as well, kind of cancel out your opponent's.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your number one do not do during the fantasy football playoffs?
Do not chase points. Do not look back and say, hey, this person just, like Cole Beasley, for example, he just had, double-digit targets for 131 yards and a touchdown. He doesn't score many touchdowns. I wouldn't just say automatically Cole Beasley is going to be a beast for the next week. So you want to still look at matchups and play the matchup game with your players. Don't chase points.
Okay. All right. Do you have any final thoughts before we jump off and go watch Tuesday Night Football?
Yeah, go Cowboys. Let's get a win out of this. I don't know, honestly. I've
given up on the Ravens, to be honest. Yeah. I was going to include them in my pretenders, but sadly the COVID fog might take them down. Who knows? We'll see tonight if they're well and right. But yeah,
I'll give an update. There's a minute left in the first, and the Cowboys are winning 3-0. So
Excellent. I'll fold some laundry and watch this game.
Ugly game, like I said. Yeah, exactly. It's a perfect thing to do.
All right. Well, that's it. That'll do it for this week 14 of the fantasy dilemma, or just fantasy dilemma. We got this show. It's Courtney, Fallon. Oh, wait. One more question coming. Should you keep the Dolphins defense against the Chiefs? Says Dennis the Menace.
I would not. No.
No.
That's absolutely not. No, there's got to be a better option for you. Last second question.
Okay, last second question. All right. I'm assuming that's it.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
All right, last second question at the wire. All right.
Thanks,
well,
Dennis.
make sure, Nate, you got a couple articles on thegameday.com. Go check them out. We got all of your previews. If you want to talk lines, you want to talk spreads, early teasers for the week, we got you covered at thegameday.com. I'm Courtney Fallon. That's Nate Hamilton. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.